Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Afternoon, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. More wet weather to come through the rest of today and then another pulse of rain tomorrow. That rain's going to be heavy in places and we have Met Office warnings that have been issued too for South Wales and South West England through this evening. Further heavy pulses of rain. It's been so wet here that is likely to cause further issues, chance of flooding. But it does start to clear at least here as we head through the night and then it turns up across East Anglia and the south east. A few showers in western Scotland, some wet weather for a time elsewhere, but most places actually becoming quite dry through the night as temperatures drop to 6 or 7 Celsius, 9 or 10 across the south. On to tomorrow. I said there's more rain to come, but actually many places will start tomorrow dry. There'll be some sunshine across parts of southern Scotland. Probably still fairly grey across the south at this stage, but largely dry for the morning rush hour. Still a lot of spray and surface water from the overnight rain, though. Largely dry and fine for Northern Ireland. 1 or 2 showers coming into the northwest and some showers over the Highlands, the Western Isles and the Northern Isles into the morning too. But should be quite a bit of sunshine across the northeast. A coolish start here, but again, nothing really particularly cold for this time of year. And then here comes the rain setting in across southern England and South Wales, where again heavy rain here, and it may last for much of the morning, even into the afternoon. Could again cause some further problems. That rain then marches northward, so it's a very wet end to the day, with the main exception being the far north of Scotland, but generally turning wet and increasingly windy. Very gusty conditions, especially on the south coast of England and Wales through the day. That rain kind of spirals its way away as we head through Thursday evening, and Friday does look as if it could offer some respite. A bright and blustery day. There'll still be showers in western Scotland, a few for Northern Ireland, but for most of England and Wales, Friday will offer some fine and dry weather. But Met Office warnings are in place for the rain tonight and tomorrow. Check those out on the Met Office website.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for helping us reach 8 million followers across social media. Thank you for making us a part of your daily life.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The M8 faces delays eastbound at junction 19 due to a broken down vehicle. On the M4, expect congestion westbound between junctions 24 Coldra and 26 Malpas. An accident on the A19 northbound between the A183 and the A1231 causes 50-minute delays. In Windsor and Maidenhead, a collision on the M4 entry slip at junction 8 causes lane closures. The M25 clockwise exit slip at junction 4 in Kent is closed due to a traffic incident. And on the trains, there is major disruption with Greater Anglia and London Overground services to and from London Liverpool Street. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the greatest cash prize of the Great British Giveaway so far. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like, making 2026 your greatest year to date. That could get you that brand new car, extend and improve your home, take you away on that bucket list holiday, or just give you some peace of mind over the coming months. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dewbs & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
All too often, people will be sitting at home watching a press conference live, and they'll hear loads of questions being asked, and they'll be thinking, that's not my question. That's not my concern.
We don't care whose feathers we ruffle. We ask the questions that you want answering.
You're all standing on the street protesting and want to have an open discussion.
My name is Patrick Christys. I do a show for GB News in the UK. Is it possible to talk to you quickly?
Journalism in this country has been a cosy world full of groupthink until now.
Well, this is the best view ever of Whitehall, looking out across all the tractor drivers of England who've come together to make their point.
Hello, so as you can see, I'm here in Westminster as the protest begins.
Yes, I'm very much in the thick of it.
Look, we're challenging narratives here at GB News, and that's what sets us apart.
Good evening at 6 o'clock. I'm Miriam Cates and you're watching GB News. Coming up in the next hour on Dewbs & Co. Hundreds of protesters gather outside the Department of Health in Westminster, pleading with the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, not to go ahead with the proposed puberty blocker trial. Campaigners say the trial amounts to experimenting on vulnerable children, and even Streeting admits that they're too young to give consent. And the government will consider new ways of funding the BBC, including through advertising or a paid subscription model, as the process that will decide the corporation's future begins. Controversially, one idea being put forward is to exempt benefits claimants from paying the licence fee at all. And a new NHS referral service is to be set up to connect child victims of sexual abuse with specialist help through their GPs. The government says that the full power of the state will be deployed to crack down on violence against women and girls. And does Britain need an emergency census? Well, that's a proposal by the think tank Policy Exchange, who say that record levels of immigration since the last census in 2021 means that important government data is out of date. And joining me to debate these topics tonight, I've got my panel, the Conservative peer and former MEP Baroness Foster and former Labour Minister Bill Rammell. But first, the latest news headlines.
Thanks, Miriam. Good evening to you. 6:05 here in the GB newsroom. Police in London and Manchester say they plan to take a more assertive approach in how they deal with pro-Palestinian protests. Anyone holding placards or chanting "Globalise the Intifada," an Arabic word for uprising, will now face arrest. The chief constables issued a joint statement earlier. It followed deadly anti-Semitic attacks in Sydney and Manchester. They vowed to act more decisively, saying violent acts have taken place, the context has changed, words have meaning and consequence. The Health Secretary says he deeply regrets the impact the latest strike by resident doctors will have on patients in the lead up to Christmas. NHS England says non-urgent services will be affected by the 5-day walkout, which they say has come at the worst possible time for the health service. Wes Streeting's apologised directly to patients for the disruption.
We did everything we could to avert these strikes, even meeting for hours with BMA officials yesterday to see if even at the 11th hour we could avert the strikes. After constructive discussions, we still weren't able to persuade the BMA either to come into negotiations or indeed to delay strikes to January as I had offered. Our entire focus now is on keeping patients safe.
The Chelsea owner, former Chelsea owner Roman Abramovich, has been told to release the £2.5 billion earned for the sale of the club or face court action. The oligarch, who was sanctioned for his relationship with Vladimir Putin, pledged to donate the proceeds to the people of Ukraine, but has yet to do so. The Prime Minister says the government's now issued a licence allowing those frozen funds to be transferred. More than 550 migrants have crossed the English Channel illegally during a brief 12-hour weather window. They reached the UK this morning following 74 arrivals overnight in 9 small boats. The surge comes after weeks of rough seas halted crossings, but it means that the total number of arrivals has gone past 40,000 this year. The UK is to rejoin the Erasmus student exchange scheme from 2027, 6 years after ending its participation because of Brexit. It will give British students the opportunity to study, train or volunteer in EU countries as part of their degree courses without paying extra fees, and the same offer is open to Europeans. Downing Street has described the £570 million cost as a good deal, insisting Britain got a 30% reduction in fees. Paymaster General Nick Thomas Simmons has described the move, has denied the move as a betrayal of Brexit. Nick Reiner has appeared in court charged with the murder of his parents, the film director Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle. The 32-year-old faces 2 counts of first-degree murder, with prosecutors alleging he used a knife to carry out the attack. Live pictures here from LA. The district attorney for Los Angeles has said, though, his office has not yet decided if they are going to seek the death penalty. Hollywood figures close to the couple, including Billy Crystal and Larry David, have paid tribute, calling Rob and Michelle a special force together, dynamic, unselfish and inspiring. Their son is scheduled to appear again before court on the 7th of January. And the Celtic chairman, Peter Lowell's, decided to step down from the club's board after what he's described as intolerable abuse and threats. Fans have been voicing their displeasure following Celtic's early exit from the Champions League, their disappointing summer transfer window and league campaign. They're currently 3rd in the Premiership behind Hearts and Rangers. A new manager, Wilfried Nancy, lost his first 3 games in charge after succeeding Brendan Rodgers, including the Premier Sports Cup final against St Mirren on Sunday. Lowell spent 18 years at the club as chief executive from 2003, and he spent the last 3 years as chairman. And there's your headlines. I'll be back with more at 7.
Welcome back to Dewbs & Co with me, Miriam Cates, and joining me until 7 o'clock I've got my panel, the Conservative peer and former MEP Baroness Foster and former Labour Minister Bill Rammell. And of course, don't forget to get your views in at gbnews.com/your say. Also, friends of GB News can now vote on this very question in my You Decide poll by scanning the QR code that should be on your screen now. We're asking, should we hold an emergency census after record levels of immigration? And we'll bring you the results at the end of the show. Now, on to our top story tonight. Early this afternoon, protesters gathered outside the Department of Health, calling for the proposed puberty blockers trial to be scrapped. A cross-party group of MPs and activists say that experimenting on vulnerable children is tantamount to child abuse. Following the publication of the Cass report back in 2023, controversial gender treatments on children were stopped after it was revealed that the Tavistock Clinic had put thousands of children who questioned their gender on unevidenced and irreversible treatments. But now a new trial by King's College London is seeking to build an evidence base, recruiting over 230 children as young as 8 years old for a clinical trial. I went along to the protest and I spoke to Catherine Forster. Have a listen.
What exactly does success look like? What are we asking these children to do? To have no puberty and then go on to cross-sex hormones? What's that going to prove? And the point of the Cass review was actually that thousands of children were given these drugs without the right evidence, without anybody really knowing about it. And the first thing we should be doing is following them up, finding out what happened to them. We don't need to put another few hundred children through this frankly torturous regime. We can ask the people who have already been through it. Now, the Cass review was warmly received by gender critical people, but unfortunately it did leave the door open for a trial like this. And what the protesters are calling on here today is Wes Street to stop this. This is not a medical question. Being born male, being born female is not a disease. We don't get to choose which sex we are. We do need to protect children who may choose a very different path later in life.
Well, this morning, before that protest, Wes Streeting appeared before MPs who questioned why he'd given approval to such a controversial trial. Here's what he had to say.
Through the decision-making process, the decision to put a young person on trial must then be ratified by a national multidisciplinary team, and there will be close observation. As part of the trial approval process, it went through extremely extensive ethical approvals processes. And that is the base upon which NHS England has commissioned this trial and authorised it to go ahead.
Well, Wes Streeting went on to emphasise the need to be guided by the clinical evidence.
By the way, very happy for Parliament to continue to scrutinise, to debate and discuss. I do think these are finely balanced judgments, and all the way through I've had to weigh up risk of harm to children and young people, which is why it's not straightforward, why I've lent on clinical advice from people far more qualified than us to make these decisions. But this is not easy, and it is not a comfortable decision, and it's one that I wrestle with on a daily basis.
Well, Bill, Wes Streeting there says that it's not straightforward, but it is straightforward, isn't it? These children don't have a medical problem. Why are we stopping puberty, an important natural process, in children who have no medical problem?
Well, personally, I'm uncomfortable with anyone under the age of 16 having puberty blockers. And Wes Streeting did intervene to stop what was then the widespread use of puberty blockers, and he used the Cass review, which said there was thin evidence on the benefits of puberty blockers to make that decision. But
Bill, sorry to jump in, but there's absolutely no point in giving puberty blockers to anybody over the age of 16 because almost everybody has been through puberty by 16.
Sure, and I'm saying that I'm not comfortable with people under 16 having puberty blockers. However, the Cass review did explicitly say there was a need for clinical trials in order to demonstrate the efficacy or not of puberty blockers. And Wes has followed that advice, and I think we've got to follow through with that. And there are protections within the trials that are taking place. It requires explicit assent and agreement from the parents. There are protections. And, you know, Cass recognised that there were passionate views that for some people there were benefits in terms of mental health, in terms of their well-being. But you need to get the evidence, and that was the clinical advice, and I think we need to follow through on it.
But, Jackie, we know these drugs are effective because these drugs were developed for children who go into what's called precocious puberty. So they enter puberty far too early, at the age of 5 or 6. They delay puberty to a more normal age, 10 or 11. We know they work. Why are we trying them out?
Well, I'd really echo what you'd actually said when you were there this morning. I also don't believe Hilary Cass would condone this. It's true to say that in the report she had said we could probably do with a bit more evidence. I think there's plenty of evidence. There are hundreds and hundreds of children who went through that revolting Tavistock clinic, which was not monitored. You can't tell me, and the key point is, there's not enough follow-up. There's enough kids to actually follow this up. I think this is even more than child abuse, frankly, and to even consider that children as young as 8 or 9 or 10 could actually be, put on these drugs. These drugs inevitably lead to basically surgery very often, mutilation for the rest of their lives, and they're on heavy drugs for the rest of their lives. I think there is no evidence that this should go ahead. In addition, Lord Winston, who is an extremely eminent Labour peer, the expert on IVF, and he has said categorically, because he'd spoken about these things, that actually even a young person's brain and frontal lobe doesn't actually develop fully till they're in their early 20s. So it's not just about the sort of physical obvious things when somebody is a child. I think that this should be absolutely opposed. I'm fully behind stopping this. I don't think Wes Streeting has got a case to do it. I think there is enough information, and I think that if they do, I just think it's horrendous. There's also a key issue here, and it's about people who are gay. What this dialogue has started to do over the last few years is we know that when we're all going through puberty, when we're kids, people have crushes, they do all sorts of things, the girls play football, the boys put a frock on. It doesn't necessarily mean they shouldn't use on the wrong body. There's no such thing as anybody being in a wrong body, by the way. Very often, a very small proportion of teenagers will be gay. And what this is trying to, this whole trans thing, is trying to push away that, no, you won't be gay because you're in the wrong body, so we can actually now make amends and put you in the right one. This is dangerous. This is abuse. And I think that there are already cases that are going to court. This is an absolute You know, we've had the blood scandal. This is going to be another scandal that's going to be coming up this century.
Well, it will certainly
because of already what's happened really with the Tavistock.
Jacqueline, you quoted Hilary Cass. She has explicitly said that she did recommend and she supports the clinical trials going ahead. And you know, Wes Streeting made it very clear in those interviews that it's a really difficult, finely balanced judgment. And there are parents, there are children who want puberty blockers.
Of course there are. There are children who want to take drugs and have sex and drive cars and drink alcohol. That's what children want to do.
But the government, through Wes Streeting, rightly stopped the widespread use of puberty blockers. But the clinical advice was there needs to be trials in order to demonstrate the efficacy or not.
Do you think,
and I think you've got to follow the clinical advice.
I did actually sit down with Hilary Cass when her report is in the House of Lords. When her report was actually, obviously came into the public domain. And I still do not believe, I mean, of course there'll be a reference in there to say...
No, I think she has intervened recently.
Okay,
I will check, but I think she has.
I have to say, I could not possibly condone this. I think that this is just absolutely unacceptable.
Do you think the problem here is that we're asking science to answer a question that is not about science at all? It's just about ethics. We know the science of puberty blockers. We know that they stop puberty. We know that if a girl takes testosterone, she'll grow facial hair. We know that if a boy takes estrogen, he'll grow breasts. That's not in debate. That's a scientific fact. The question is it ethically right to stop a child's puberty with the intent to somehow pretend we can turn them into the opposite sex? That seems to me a philosophical, a theological, a moral question, nothing to do with science.
I think there are ethical... I'm not supportive of puberty blockers for those under 16, but I think there are ethical arguments both ways.
What's the ethical argument for stopping puberty in a healthy child?
In order to improve their mental well-being and to provide time for decision-making and to avoid surgery later on in life.
But we know that 99% of children who are given puberty blockers go on to cross-sex hormones, which is totally irreversible.
And can we also...
We know that from the evidence of the Cass report.
say that a lot of these kids that end up in this situation often have anorexia. They've often got mental health issues in anyone from a relatively young age. This isn't the answer. And there is plenty of evidence. And I just cannot get the argument for it.
It is a finely balanced judgment.
We don't let a child smoke. We don't let a child do this. And what they want to do is pump kids full of drugs, which can wreck the rest of their lives. I mean, it is astonishing. It's absolutely
Let's talk a bit more about the Cass report, because obviously it was commissioned by, I think, Sajid Javid. That was many, many health secretaries ago. As a result of her report, the Tavistock Clinic was closed down. And as you said, the last government and this government banned the use of puberty blockers. But looking back now...
Well, no, it was this government that banned the use of puberty blockers.
The last government temporarily banned them. Wes Streeting made it permanent, I think. Anyway, we can split hairs, but the point is, as a result of that report, the gender treatment stopped. Do you think, though, that in retrospect the government was too quick to accept all of Cass's recommendations? Because we now know one of them was to have this trial. Also, she leaves the door open for there being true trans children, whatever that may be, children who genuinely have been born in the wrong body, which I just know they have.
Well, my recollection of the Cass review when it came out was that the clinical trials was very foremost and centre as part of the argument.
It was in there, but it certainly wasn't.
It was debated, it was reported in the press at the time that this was the suggested way forward. And I think you do have to follow the clinical advice, but I think there are broader concerns as well. There's a piece of research based on freedom of information requests in the New Statesman this week that 1 in 10 children receiving gender care are self-medicating with sex hormones, and I think that is an enormous concern.
I don't know where kids would get these hormones from.
You can buy it on the internet.
A kid of 10 goes on the internet and buys these drugs.
Yes, unfortunately, that is true.
I don't believe there's 1 in 10 in a million years.
No. 1 in 10 of the children who turn up for gender treatment, not 1 in 10 of all children.
I don't know.
But it's based on freedom of information requests with the relevant health authorities.
Yeah, but the parents need to be taking responsibility here, because we also know and we also see that there have been some parents, I'm not saying all by any stretch, who have pushed this from when they've got very, very young children because the child has dressed up in a frock or whatever they've done. And, you know, at the end of the day, we're supposed to be here about child protection. That's not about the state interfering in anything that parents do. But at the end of the day, this is catastrophic. And I think this is going to be one of the biggest scandals, I have to say, with what's already taken place. This trial, you can put it one side. And we've seen the number of young people now in their 20s and whatever, and they've been put through hell. And they didn't really understand the implications themselves when they were younger.
And Bill,
you know...
Bill, you talked about consent, but in the Cass review found that children who are treated at gender clinics, children in care are vastly overrepresented in terms of children who present at gender clinics. So in that situation where you've got children who are not living with their biological parents, who gives the consent for a trial like this?
Yeah, I don't believe they are going to be part of the trial. I think it is those with genuine and explicit parental consent. But look, you know, this is a really difficult issue, and it's really important that government ministers do follow clinical advice. You know, I think we'd be in an unprecedented situation if the Secretary of State for Health just ignored and rejected the clinical advice. And it was explicit that we need an evidence base to make judgments on these issues, and there should be restricted, protected clinical trials. And in those circumstances, I think it's right to follow through on it.
Secretaries of State, people are there to give advice, and it is for Secretaries of State actually to accept it or not.
To overturn clinical advice.
I do not believe, as I said, this is the right way forward.
Well, there are many, many reports where governments do not accept all, or indeed any of the recommendations.
Absolutely.
Anyway, we'll leave this topic there. Don't go away, because coming up, could working families have to pay more to fund targeted concessions or even free TV licences for benefit claimants? See you after the break.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dewbs, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Dewbs & Co with me, Miriam Kate, and keeping me company until 7 o'clock. I've got the Conservative peer and former MEP, Baroness Foster, and former Labour Minister, Bill Rammell. And you've been getting in touch with your views at home, gbnews.com/your say. Lots of comments about the puberty blockers trial. Not a huge diversity of opinion. Pretty much everybody is against it. Janet Hill says, leave the children alone. Julie Scopes says, common sense, please, for God's sake, they can decide when they're adults. Jason Green says, absolutely ridiculous. Bev P, children are not guinea pigs. Yet again, I despair. And Claire B, let children be children and stop with this madness. I quite agree. Well, moving on now. Working families face paying more to watch the BBC in order to fund free TV licences for benefit claimants. This is under new reforms being considered by Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy. Despite the number of households that are refusing to pay the fee growing rapidly, Ms Nandy described the method as tried and tested, adding that she's not considering an alternative to the current licence fee model. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister is continuing to face criticism for failing to tackle the ballooning welfare bill, which is, of course, on course to hit £378 billion by the end of this decade. So, panel, the BBC, it's been in the news a lot recently. They're supposed to report the news. They're currently making the news. This is just a green paper at this stage, isn't it, Jackie, with ideas about future funding of the BBC. Something has to change, doesn't it?
Well, I personally would defund the BBC.
Completely?
I would, absolutely, completely, yes. I would make it work for a living, basically. The BBC does some great stuff. I've been a great supporter over the years, and I just think the whole issue now of telecommunications, of media, it's so different now, and I think they sit on a budget of about £4 billion a year, and I think they're complacent. But let's just move on to this. And should people on benefits get a free licence? No, they shouldn't. I mean, the whole objective really is to get people back to work. People are paying for apps, they're paying for the Netflix, they're paying for Amazon Prime, and most people on benefits will have, will certainly probably have Sky and various other, I should imagine, various other providers. And I just think this just sounds like another sop to say, really, not about the economy, not about the bill. This is all about, in my view, Labour trying to shore up its vote. It thinks that in its areas where they've got these wafer-thin majorities, as was the budget, frankly, it was not a budget for the economy of the UK. It was a budget for Labour MPs with wafer-thin majorities to try and comfort them and try and keep their voters on board. So this is just another one of those, and certainly it's sending out completely the wrong message.
Well, it's not just the BBC or not just licence fees, is it, though? We've had suggestions that postage stamps should be cheaper, for example, for people on benefits. We know that a lot of energy bills are subsidised for people on benefits. Where has this impulse come from to provide things for free, subsidised by people who work very hard and pay tax?
Well, with respect to the licence fee, we already have it for over 75s.
Pension credit only, though, isn't it? It's the very poorest
only
pensioners.
If they're on pension
credit. But it is a targeted benefit. Look, I'm a fan of the BBC, and I'm actually a fan of the licence fee because it protects the BBC from any government of the day by having an independent source of income. But this is a consultation. I don't believe this proposal will ultimately fly. I think it would create a sense of unfairness, even though, you know, 2/3 of the people on benefits are actually in work. So it's not, you know, just subsidising people who are out of work. There's also proposals or options within the Green Paper around subscription for premium content, possible adverts. With all of these, I'd be very careful. And I think the licence fee is tried and trusted. It has resourced what is still regarded as probably the best public service broadcaster in the world. It is a British national asset, and I think we should protect it. You know, it's a consultation, but in my view, what should come out of this is the licence fee moving forward.
Jackie, the problem, though, with getting rid of the licence fee and going to, let's say, advertising is it then becomes a huge threat to commercial stations, because the BBC has got an enormous audience, it's going to continue to have an enormous audience. If it was to take adverts, advertisers would flock to the BBC, pay millions and millions of pounds advertising the BBC, and withdraw their advertising from other channels, which might then suffer.
Well, why would they do that? Because you've got an awful lot of other channels that are actually
Yes, but the size of the BBC, like the Today programme on Radio 4 has about 6 million listens a day still, despite having lost several million.
Well, I mean, there could be certain parts of the BBC that they can possibly retain, but an awful lot of the programmes that the BBC show, A, repeats, and very often they're bought in from companies, other media companies actually, that have made them, and the BBC themselves haven't made them. So, yeah, as I said, you know, there's an argument for should it remain, you know, basically in the control. But we do fund it. I mean, we, the taxpayers, are paying for it. Surely, I mean, when people do try and have a say over it, I mean, they're sort of criticised. How can you criticise the BBC? Well, we criticise the BBC, and they're entitled to be. I think it's an arrogant organisation. You've only got to see now what's happened now. They're apparently going to be sued, and I don't think it's about the money, about £10 billion from President Trump, and it needs to actually start taking into account that it is a public service provider in terms of whatever, and I think it's lost its way over the last 15 or 20 years, frankly.
Do you know what? The part of me that is cynical does wonder if all the various propositions, advertising, subscription, subsidies for people on benefit, are all so bad that actually the outcome will be, do you know what? Let's stick with the status quo. And personally, I'd be in favour of that, because, yes, you can make criticisms of the BBC, but it provides quality programming. It aspires for impartiality, which no other news broadcaster does. And I think that is an asset that's worth having. And, you know, it's also about global soft power. The BBC brings leverage and credit throughout the world, and that's to our national advantage.
Yeah, but that'll do that. For example, you've got BBC World, which has a specific audience. It's funded differently too, as we very well know. But you're talking about covering all aspects. I mean, Miriam, you may remember the BBC, and it was actually over some of this trans stuff. And and I watched the programme. They had a programme on with a couple of 10 and 11-year-olds, and the presenter was there telling them that there were 120 genders. I mean, yes, and we complained about it. People wrote in and said, "What are you doing with this?"
And we've seen their coverage on Israel and Gaza.
So we've seen their coverage.
I've got to admit, I am torn on this.
But anyway,
I am with Bill in that I think it has been a fantastic institution. I think the funding model has worked. But if it can't be reformed, if they can't sort out some of this extreme bias, you know, some of these institutional problems, then I don't think it's going to survive. But it's a big deal to reform it. It's an enormous organisation.
BBC Verify is a joke. It must be verifying itself, because
definitely a case of marking one's own homework.
We can have these days, fortunately, because there are so many other ways that we can gather news. We can gather it from really at the heart from social media. All of social media isn't bad. We're picking up stuff on social media where people are actually filming and able to take you know, evidence there of something that's going on live.
The idea that social media provides a balanced presentation of information, I think, is for the birds.
I didn't say that. I said we're in a position, Bill, where we can access videos, we can access actually real-time things that are going on around the world, not just from the BBC.
Quick final word, Bill.
That's what I'm saying.
The BBC does not always get it right, and where it gets it wrong, it needs to be held to account. But it actually aspires for genuine factual reporting and impartiality, and I think we lose that at our peril.
It's lost the plot.
Well, we'll see what happens to the BBC, but we do have a right of reply. The former Director General, Tim Davies, said, "We welcome the publication of the government's Green Paper. At the BBC, we want change so we can continue to deliver for the UK for generations to come. We want to secure a public service BBC that is independent, sustainably funded for the long term and meets our audience's needs." Well, don't go anywhere, because coming up, the government plans to halve violence against women and girls within a decade. See you after the break.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, are you heading away for some sunshine? Well, it's quite wet actually across parts of Spain, Italy and France, as well as the Canary Islands. We've got some very unsettled weather, a risk of showers for Tenerife through Thursday and a risk of outbreaks of heavy rain and thunderstorms spread across Spain, Italy and France through Thursday. It does look a little bit drier to end the week, and across eastern areas of the Mediterranean there's plenty of dry weather to come through Friday and into the weekend. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Evening. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Now, tomorrow will start dry for most of us, but there is more rain to come, and that rain is likely to be heavy in places. We have Met Office warnings in place for the rain. Initially caused by this weather front, it's been only slowly tracking its way across the country through the day today. Very wet still over Wales and southwest England, but it is turning drier here through this evening. That rain working into eastern parts of England, where it should also tend to fizzle through the early hours. Showers continue to pack in across much of western Scotland, but as I said, many places will become dry by the time we get to dawn as temperatures drop down into single figures, but generally that's still pretty mild for this time of year. So a largely dry, largely cloudy start. Should see some sunny spells across parts of Scotland in the morning. Quite grey though in the south, but the overnight rain may still be lingering across parts of Kent, and it won't be long before the next batch of rain arrives. For Northern Ireland, much of northern England, good part of Scotland, it's a dry, fine, bright start. There will be some showers just moving in across the northwest of Scotland. And then as we go through the day, the winds will strengthen and the next area of rain will arrive. Coming into the southwest of England, initially spreading right across the south of England, then into Wales. Brighter colours where we're seeing heavier rain, likely to cause further disruption. It's been very wet, of course, recently, so this extra rain may cause further flooding, certainly disruption on the transport network. A lot of spray, surface water on the roads. It all moves northward, so most places soggy by the end of the day. The exception may be northern Scotland. Also very gusty and blustery at times through tomorrow in the southwest. A bright breezy day though for Friday, something of a respite. Many places seeing sunny spells across England and Wales. A lot drier here. Still a fair few showers across northern Scotland and northern parts of Northern Ireland. But overall Friday is a drier day. But do look out for the heavy rain tonight and again tomorrow. Those Met Office yellow warnings are on the Met Office website.
Thank you, Britain, for making us the fastest growing news website in the UK. We're truly humbled, and we couldn't have done it without you.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. The A702 is blocked at Morriswood roundabout Penicuik due to a broken down vehicle. Sunderland's A19 northbound has lane closures between the A183 and A1231. In Lancashire, the A56 northbound between the A681 and A680 has a closed lane due to a vehicle fire. Suffolk's A14 westbound is congested from a multi-car incident. Kent's M25 clockwise exit slip at Junction 4 is fully closed after a collision with recovery underway. And on the trains, Greater Anglia services to and from London Liverpool Street and Hertford East, along with the London Overground, face major disruptions. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back to Dewbs & Co with me, Miriam Kate. I've still got my panel with me, keeping me company until 7. The Conservative peer and former MEP Baroness Foster and former Labour Minister Bill Rammell. And thank you for continuing to send in your views. Lots about BBC and potential shake-up of the licence fee. Sean says, not a fan of the BBC, but the licence fee does keep it free from government control. Yep, very fair point. Adrian Porter says, if this goes through, I will stop paying my TV licence. I'm not working to pay for other people on benefits to watch TV. Neil says, I thought we were trying to get people back into work, not giving them another excuse to lie on the settee watching daytime TV. A very good point. Well, do keep your views coming in at gbnews.com/your say. Well, moving on now, and the government plans to halve violence against women and girls within a decade. Today it was announced that abuse victims are to get specialist NHS support. Here's the Safeguarding Minister, Jess Phillips, talking about the plans.
The thing that makes me the happiest to stand here, actually, the thing that I have been fighting for and working across government for, is that this is an announcement being made by the Secretary of State for Health, This is a culture change that instead of government departments saying, oh, it's everyone's business, and that being a tagline in a strategy, they're making it actually their business. It is the responsibility not of just criminal justice funding that goes to rape crises in our country. It is the responsibility of our health service to deal with children and their psychological needs when they have been raped or abused.
So Jess Phillips there, of course, referring to a lot of work that she's done on violence against women and girls. But I do wonder, Jackie, let's start with you, if this will change anything at all. Of course it's a good thing for children who have been tragically sexually abused to get the care they need under the NHS. But this is just a sticking plaster, isn't it?
Well, it is, because, of course, I mean, first of all, you've got to get people, women and girls, to see a doctor in the first place. I'm not now talking about waiting lists. I'm talking about somebody that's going to be in a position to go and see somebody and get some medical help. What I understand is that very often it's actually the GPs or people that have managed to go and see, because often they're in the most abusive relationships in any event, and a lot of these men, predominantly, I'd say predominantly, because it's not all, a lot of these men, then, you know, if the woman isn't too badly injured, they won't let them have any access to health. But what can happen is they do see or get medical help in a hospital with a GP. That is then forwarded to social services, and this is very often where it falls down a hole. What is also not mentioned and not taken into account is the cultural and religious differences in this country. If you speak English, you've got obviously a better chance of being able to report something. And if your parents speak English too, what we have got is now we have got we've got millions in a way of people and young women who have come into this country. They're not actually now living under UK law predominantly. They're controlled by men. We have FGM. That's the female mutilation, and that goes in different communities. Nobody's been prosecuted for that yet, and we know it's an illegal thing. This is where people are very, very badly disfigured and have dreadful, dreadful lives. So in addition to that, I think there's an awful lot more to tackle. I think if you lose the thrust that these are actually criminal acts, of course it's important for the health service to be involved in this. These are criminal acts against women and girls, and they cannot be tolerated, and they can't be, as you said, a sticking plaster being pushed from one department. The focus is, this is criminality. This has to be dealt with. And, of course, the services surrounding that need to make sure that they're aware of that and not be fearful, not be fearful of actually reporting it then to the the police and various...
Well, one thing in here that actually might help that bill is that the government wants to expand the child house model, which is like a refuge for children where they only have to tell their story once. And currently there's only one of these in England, in North London. They plan to roll that out. I mean, that at least could help rescue some children in particularly difficult circumstances.
Absolutely, and look, we're going to see the detail of the strategy tomorrow, but it is wide-ranging, and Jess Phillips is right that there's an important health dimension, but there's many other dimensions, and, you know, the justice elements, you know, scandalously, the proportion of rapes that come to successful prosecution is incredibly low in this country, and that needs to be tackled as well. But, you know, there's really good stuff in this around a lot more resources for refugees, protection within the home for women who want to stay within the home, but also increasing penalties for harassment and stalking, online safety, but also, you know, prevention and education, so teaching healthy relationships to...
See, Bill, I just think that it just doesn't cut it. Teaching healthy relationships. We need to go back and think about why in the West we have managed so well, comparatively to all other cultures, to embed in men from an early age that they should treat women with respect, that it's not acceptable to be violent or abusive, and women can be safe taking part in public activities without the fear of sexual or physical abuse. This is almost unique to Western culture, and it is because of years and centuries of training men how to control aggression, how to, you know, what the penalties are. Teaching children in school what a healthy relationship looks like just doesn't
I tell you what, when you see the research on the proportion of young boys who think strangulation during sex is acceptable and normal...
Misogyny lessons is not going to help. Banning porn would. Why aren't they going to do that?
I'm open to that, and I think, you know, we should look at that. But I do think educating kids about healthy, respectful relationships is an important part of this. But it's multi-dimensional, and, you know, the attempt to have a cross-government strategy to halve violence against women and girls is an important one, and the government needs to resource it.
Can I just come in, because I think that the Education Department actually, and consecutive government, have done a lot towards making sure that schools are actually fair, that they do treat each other with respect, much more so than when I went to school. We never even talked about things like that. So I don't think it's that. I think there can be a small proportion. Of course, you've got to get the boys and the girls to treat each other well. This is much wider than this. This is really when we're looking at... we live in a so-called multicultural society. There are very different ways of thinking. If you have this conversation in certain schools, they won't even be having this conversation. And as I said, we have segregation in schools. We are in a position now where we have many, many women and young girls in this country, and they are not able to speak out. Because they are not able to speak out because of their own religious and cultural communities who won't let them. And so they have very little protection. You saw it with the little girl that was murdered and the family...
Sarah Sharif.
Oh, absolutely, Sarah Sharif. And how did they hide the wounds that she had when they'd been burning her head?
But these are exactly the kinds of things that the government should be talking about.
This is my point. So I don't think you can take the sledgehammer to crack a nut. I think you have to look at area by area, because there will be different pressures here, and as I said, but if you lose that focus that whatever these people do is criminal, whatever the age is criminal, that has to be the focus, and then you can build on. You're right, they're putting some more money in to try and find ways of protecting children. I'm always astonished that we have children in this country, little small kids, and they're left in households and both parents are on drugs. I've done it, I've canvassed, and you can smell the dough coming out of the house, and you're thinking, how are they leaving them there? And then you've got people, and I'm not saying all, because there's some very good social workers that do a very good job. We have people, and the judiciary in the past, who have sent children back into the most appalling circumstances, and young girls and women, and go, oh, well, you know, the children are better off, you know, at home. The children aren't. The children are in danger, and that's got to be right. The children have to be at the forefront of any policy that's made, and they're not. They're often sidelined, and it's then, oh, well, the parents. No. It's the children that have to come first.
Bill, it's an ambitious target, halving violence against women and girls. Do you think the government can do it?
Let's see, the devil will be in the detail. Let's see the detail of this tomorrow. But I think the ambition is absolutely right. And often when you set stretching, ambitious targets, you might not quite get there, but you go an awful long way down the road. And having this comprehensive approach that cuts across departments and really highlights the importance of this issue, I think is the right way forward.
Well, we will be covering the release of that Violence Against Women and Girls strategy live on GB News tomorrow, so do join us. But don't go away, we've still got one more section to come. Coming up, is it time for an emergency census to assess the true impact of immigration? That's what the think tank Policy Exchange is proposing. We'll be debating that after the break.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Dewbs & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dewbs, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Dewbs & Co with me, Miriam Cates, and keeping me company until 7 o'clock. I've got the Conservative peer and former MEP, Baroness Foster, and former Labour Minister, Bill Rammell. Now, does Britain need an emergency census to assess the true impact of uncontrolled immigration on housing, public services and community cohesion? Well, that's what the centre-right think tank Policy Exchange think. Their research showed that the national population has grown by 3.4% since June 2021, which is the equivalent of the combined populations of the cities of Birmingham, Manchester and Liverpool, while some cities have grown by as much as 10% in 3 years. Bill, let's start with you. Of course, censuses take place every 10 years, but we have seen unprecedented population growth since the last census. Do you think we need a bit more information?
No, I think, you know, we have a tried and trusted methodology with censuses once every 10 years. You can statistically compare them. I don't think there's a case for this. And also some context. Net migration has come down from 1 million, as it was under the last government, to about 200,000 today. And there's a debate to be had about how much net migration you need. And we'll see with that regard. But I do agree with this report that there are real concerns about segregation and isolation within the communities. But my problem is how you legislate against that. You ban faith schools, you know. I put my hands up. My kids went to a Catholic comprehensive school, you know, and if you ban faith schools, you'd have to do it across the board. You know, the vast majority of Muslims oppose Islamic extreme violence, which this report is saying is driven by segregation. So, you know, it's difficult to stop people congregating.
But aren't we jumping the gun here?
Communities.
Because I don't think Policy Exchange are arguing that we need to know the solutions right now, but what we do need is information. And the census tells us so many things about people's earnings, people's income, people's health, and we just don't have that information for now millions of people.
But the thing is, you've got to get somebody to fill in the form.
Well, what they're suggesting is a stripped-down model based on an emergency census that was held in 1966. So only a 10% sample of the population would be given the census, and you'd focus on 5 particular cities. So it wouldn't be quite as arduous a task as a full census. And you do legally have to fill it in, the census.
In principle, I mean, I support getting good information, good solid information, and then we can work from that. And it is difficult for governments and councils because they're obviously trying to plan. We need infrastructure, you know, we need all of these things. And the population has grown greatly certainly over the last 10 years, actually, I would say 10 to 20 years. And we had enlargement, and then we had, Romania and Bulgaria, and that was when we were in the EU. There were obviously 3 or 4 million people who then became registered after we Brexited and one thing and another. And then obviously high levels of migration in as well. OK, we've stopped some of that, which is trying to be sorted out. It's an impossible task in my view. But I think that the problem that you have is, as well, I mean, there is a penalty if you don't fill in a census form, but people don't take any notice that nobody's going to go into prison if they don't fill the form in. And it's just really, I suppose, if it could be done and it could be worthwhile, yeah, I don't have a particular issue against it. But there are other issues, I think, that Bill has flagged up as well. It's much wider than this. The local, I mean, they reckon there's about 2 million people in this country, and they don't know who they are and where they are. Because they're all working. They're not just in the black economy, but they're really just basically disappeared.
And that's the problem, isn't it, Bill? Councils now really don't know what the housing need is, for example, in some places.
No idea.
Well, I mean, the housing need is significant for right the way across the country, and that's why we need to build more homes. But I'm not sure this is a serious proposal for a census. It's an attempt to get publicity and debate about what I think is an important issue, segregation. I think, communities that are segregated, that are separated apart, where the only people you talk to are people from your own faith, your own background, are a concern. But how you actually change that is really difficult. However, there is one way, and I really welcome the moves that Shabana Mahmood has made on English language capability to get a visa, to get indefinite leave to remain. And she's explicitly argued that if you're going to integrate in this country, you have to be able to speak English. And I think that's right. And we need more measures like that that can tackle that issue of segregation.
And I think if I can just come on that point, that's one thing if you've got new entrants coming in, for example, if they're whatever they are.
Jackie, I'm going to
we've got millions of people.
Jump in, Jackie, I'm afraid, because we have got the results of our friend of GB News poll. We've been asking, should we hold an emergency census after record levels of immigration? Here's the result. Bill, you're not going to like this. It's 96% said yes, 4% said no. Well, I think that's pretty conclusive. I hope the government is listening. Well, thank you ever so much to my panel. Thank you, everybody listening and watching at home and sending in your views. Don't forget, I'll be back tomorrow at 9:30 with Andrew Pearce for Britain's Newsroom. We'll be covering a lot of these stories, the latest on them. But up next, we've got GBN Tonight. Don't go anywhere. This is GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Evening. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Now, tomorrow will start dry for most of us, but there is more rain to come, and that rain is likely to be heavy in places. We have Met Office warnings in place for the rain. Initially caused by this weather front, it's been only slowly tracking its way across the country through the day today. Very wet still over Wales and southwest England, but it is turning drier here through this evening. That rain working into eastern parts of England, where it should also tend to fizzle through the early hours. Showers continue to pack in across much of western Scotland, but as I said, many places will become dry by the time we get to dawn as temperatures drop down into single figures, but generally that's still pretty mild for this time of year. So a largely dry, largely cloudy start. Should see some sunny spells across parts of Scotland in the morning. Quite grey though in the south, but the overnight rain may still be lingering across parts of Kent, and it won't be long before the next batch of rain arrives. For Northern Ireland, much of northern England, good part of Scotland, it's a dry, fine, bright start. There will be some showers just moving in across the northwest of Scotland. And then as we go through the day, the winds will strengthen and the next area of rain will arrive. Coming into the southwest of England, initially spreading right across the south of England, then into Wales. Brighter colours where we're seeing heavier rain, likely to cause further disruption. It's been very wet, of course, recently, so this extra rain may cause further flooding. Certainly disruption on the transport network. A lot of spray surface water on the roads. It all moves northward, so most places soggy by the end of the day. The exception may be northern Scotland. Also very gusty and blustery at times times through tomorrow in the southwest. A bright breezy day though for Friday, something of a respite. Many places seeing sunny spells across England and Wales, a lot drier here. Still a fair few showers across northern Scotland and northern parts of Northern Ireland. But overall Friday is a drier day. But do look out for the heavy rain tonight and again tomorrow. Those Met Office yellow warnings are on the Met Office website.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you so much for helping us to reach 8 million followers and subscribers across our social media channels. That's 8 million fearless Brits standing up for what really matters.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. In Lancashire, the A56 northbound between Haslingden North and the A681 is delayed due to a vehicle fire. One lane remains blocked. In Rotherham, on the M1 southbound between junctions 33 and 32, a broken down vehicle has closed one lane. In Warwickshire, a collision on the M6 southbound between junction 1 and the M1 has closed 1 out of 3 lanes. In Kent, the M25 clockwise exit slip at junction 4 is closed due to a traffic incident. And on the trains, there is major disruption to Greater Anglia services to and from London Liverpool Street, including no trains to or from Hertford East. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the big one. Your chance to win a whopping £85,000 in tax-free cash. The largest cash prize we've given away to date. That's like over £7,000 a month extra in your bank account each month for 12 whole months. That's a year of yes. Yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to shopping trips, yes to home improvements. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays, I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away.